I would say for every marketer, first thing which starts with it's about mind share, where intervention from GenAI, social media, paid media, so on and so forth.
Isn't to achieve growth officer. So the shift is from focusing solely on brand and demand generation to owning the entire customer and revenue journey end to end. Now it's a lot more predictive. That's one of the big shifts which happens.
Lot of overlap now between sales and marketing also, because marketing is increasingly being looked as a
But see, the marketing community can be well trained on AI tools and they can become, techno marketeers.
Where the brand is losing sense, in the sense of where the organizations are not trying to think about where the brand has a role in.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. A warm welcome to all of you on behalf of CXO Media and APAC Media to this Marketing Leaders Connect series. And as you can all see, we have marketing leaders from leading technology solution providers across the country joining in this series. We used to conduct this series with different marketing leaders few months back. Then, due to certain constraints, we were not able to continue at that time. We are restarting the series. The objective of this discussion primarily is to see marketing has evolved significantly from the way the dynamics used to be in the traditional methods, what used to be followed maybe 10-15 years back. And digitization has been one of the primary catalysts driving this transformation. Even within digitization, that's a very broad, all encompassing thing. Maybe even 10-15 years back, some form of digitalization and digital transformation started happening. Then the next step was full advent of social media and how social media was being leveraged to alter the contours of traditional marketing. Subsequently, even things like bots and stuff, where marketing was connected more to customer service and customer satisfaction, that came in. And now it's the era of increasing hyper personalization from marketing to attract and reach out to the target customers, and increasing use of Gen AI and other AI tools, how that defines marketing. So, before I introduce the panelists today, what we intend to do through the next 1 hour is discuss some of these changes that have happened and how that has altered the paradigm of marketing in today's environment. And more importantly, looking ahead, going ahead, some of the best practices which leading marketeers like you are planning to follow. So before we start the discussion, it's my pleasure to welcome all the panelists. We have with us Apurv Bhatnagar, Head of Enterprise Marketing at Amazon Web Services, AWS. Welcome, Apurv. We have with us Kaveri Uthappa. She's the CMO of Randstad India. Welcome, Kaveri.
Thank you, Rajesh.
We have with us Pallavi Pandey, CMO of GMM Co. Welcome, Pallavi. We have with us Abhishek Anand. He's a director of GT Bharat, Grant Thornton Bharat. Welcome, Abhishek. And we have with us Rahul Seth. Rahul is yet to join in. He will be soon joining in. We have with us Mohantesh Godi. He's the co-founder and director of CXO Media and APAC Media, and a veteran in the technology media marketing segment for a long time. Okay, so before I come with specific questions for individual panelists, In the first round, what I would like to come to each panelist and briefly, very briefly, 1 minute for each panelist. What I would like to understand is we talked about the evolution of marketing and how that change has happened over the last 10 to 15 years. So, in the current scenario, what are the changing responsibilities and expectation from a marketing head in today's environment? And I would request each of you if you can stick to one point and very briefly for 1 minute, the most important change in responsibility and expectation as a CMO that you find today. I'll start with you, Apurv.
Okay, Abhishek. First of all, thank you. Thanks for inviting me for the panel discussion. Possibly, I would say I would flip the question and say that what are the things which are not new for us as a marketer, which remains now, which has been there for ages, and which will remain for foreseeable number of years. So I think the way in which marketers do, whether it is Gen AI, whether you talk about digitalization, social media, so on and so forth, three key things has not changed and it will remain there. I would say for every marketer, the first thing which starts with it's about mind share. So mind share, unless the customer trusts your brand, it will they will not buy irrespective of how many ML and QLs SQLs you are having. The second route to that is the wallet share, which is where you think about customer. You then come to the growth strategies and things like that, where you have interventions from Gen AI, social media, paid media, so on and so forth. And last but not the least is all we are doing is to increase our market share. So market share for the respective companies in their segment is what I believe like the three fundamental principle of starting with a brand versus wallet and market is remain constant. So thank you. Over to you.
Thanks, Apurv. So, for really nicely setting the context for today's discussion, whatever tools, whatever platforms, whatever techniques we talk about, the fundamental outcome are the three basic things: gaining mind share, wallet share, and market share. Great. Kaveri, I'll come to you next. One point which you would like to highlight as a changing responsibility and expectation from you.
So, as you know, at Randstad, we are in the people business. So, while we are a tech forward company and we leverage AI and data, our central mission is to be a partner for talent. So, the unspoken transformation of my role or a chief marketing officer, in my view, is into a chief growth officer. So, the shift is from focusing solely on brand and demand generation to owning the entire customer and revenue lifecycle.
So, that shift from the brand to the customer, and that story is where you would lay the maximum emphasis on. Great. We
So
can.
traditionally, it's
Uh,
on brand awareness, advertising, lead gen, but now it's more about broader cross-functional.
Sure, I understand. Pallavi, your views on the changing responsibilities?
Right, Rajneesh. Thank you. Thank you for having me here. I think one of the big shifts which has happened with the AI advent as such is the fact that you're looking at very, very data driven, kind of insights driven kind of a marketing approach. And while marketers have always owned the customer journey end to end, now it's a lot more predictive. That's one of the big shifts which happens now with the AI coming in. And second, also, is we move away from just owning the ROAS, which used to be return on advertising spends, to more having a share in, sort of incremental profitability, how we can actually help the organization grow from a profitability standpoint. So that's the, in one line, if I have to put it in a nutshell, that's what it would be for me.
Okay, so two very important points. One, obviously, what you mentioned was that in terms of insights, it's more insights driven marketing as an activity, so that more predictive analysis can be done and the outcomes can be predicted more accurately. And the second is even more critical. If I can understand correctly, what you mentioned was a shift in marketing, which was traditionally looked at more as a cost center for an organization, to more a profit center now. so that while earlier it was sales, so I presume that means there has been a lot of overlap now between sales and marketing also, because marketing is increasingly being looked as a profit center by the marketeers. Great. Uh, Abhishek, next I'll come to you with the same point. What would be this one significant change and the expectation that you are seeing today?
Yeah, first of all, thank you everybody. So I would want to emphasize on the people and culture side. Something I feel is very important from an AI perspective. Uh, recently Sam Altman was also in India and he had a podcast with Nikhil Kamath, and there was a report from BCG which also spoke about it. So I think the cultural shift is very important here, and we need to sound it off. As leaders, we need to talk about it. It is very very important. What is happening is, people are losing jobs or people are worried about jobs because of AI, or AI is a major concern considering that. So what we should do or what we should think about is, how we can build a hybrid culture and hybrid model wherein, especially the marketing community can be well trained on AI tools and they can become, techno marketeers. So that is one area I would like to touch upon, that having a hybrid concept or what we can call as a techno marketer concept where it's a win-win for everybody.
Okay, so you are focusing more on the emergence of a techno marketeer and a marketing person. Uh, I may say acquiring more technology skills, especially in light of more AI coming in. Great, great to understand that. So now let's take up specific areas. I'll come back to you, Apoop. Or before we take up specific areas, I'll just ask Montesh to add one point on. You have heard the what the industry people are saying more from a technology media perspective. What is the main change or in responsibility or expectation you see as a media marketeer, tech media marketeer?
So I think from a technology standpoint, right? Earlier we would work in silos. I think today we are looking at a lot more holistic campaigns, and there are end-to-end experiential things that one is creating. I think one of the panelists talked about a return on advertising spends, right? So today, if you look at some of these things. Uh, while planning, I think there is a lot of data analytics which comes into play. And with marketeers, we have been able to collaborate a lot more and understand right from the beginning as to know what the journey would be and how some of the milestones are defined, and then how do we amplify it. So those are some of the, I think, key changes that one sees, collaborating very closely with the marketeers, and then creating the complete narrative end to end, and then obviously, defining the ROI for any activity that one drives.
Thanks. Thanks. Great. So now we have heard from all the panelists, and let's get into a little more specific. Coming back to you, Apoorv, very fundamental issue you touched. Whatever methods or technologies might have been adopted now, the outcome, so what ultimately organization look at remains the same: mind share, market share, and wallet share. Now, keeping that in mind, while we cannot deny that new technologies are impacting the different paradigms of marketing, so how do you see those three objectives which you mentioned? Uh, those needs to be achieved still, maybe even in an enhanced manner. So where does technology play a role in changing scenario? See, those three were fundamentals even 20 years back. But what the tools that were used 20 years back to what are being used now? What are those main changes that you feel or you witness today?
Absolutely. So first of all, I completely resonate with all the marketers, like where Kaveri highlighted, Abhishek too highlighted, and Pallavi too, that with increasing focus on the profitability, marketing has predominantly been now visualized or being expected to perform as a revenue center, indirectly as an extended arm of the sales team, not like a cost center, which is doing in terms of advertising campaigns or spending on events and so on and so forth. So that's like a fundamental shift which has happened, and where the brand is losing essence, in the sense of where the organizations are not trying to think about where the brand has a role in it. Now, across all the three layers, right? Whether you think about a brand, where second you think about a wallet share, which is growth, which most of the marketers talk about, and then the market share, which is the subsequent product of the growth, which is there. So fundamentally, I see that every stage we started with in back in 2000, early 2000, with Google AdWord, SEO, so on and so forth, which further got into the social media dimensions as such. Though from a growth perspective, the role of social media is pretty limited. Then we had extensive CRMs, which comes into the picture, marketing automation tool, including HubSpot, so on and so forth, which came into the picture. Now it is, uh, in fact, not now, about 2 years back, which is 2023, around 2023, role of Gen AI came into the picture across all the three dimensions of how we creating the content, how we are measuring the content, and how we are experimenting it. And now I think is the evolution is in terms of the agentic AI, which is coming into the picture. I would say, to an extent now, with the role of agentic AI, it's a hyper automation world which we are coming in, where people are. So there are tools like Clay, there are tools like N18. So where the people are creating agents through which they will play a superlative role in terms of your brand visibility as well as brand measurement, right from like how many mentions which are taking place not on a single dashboard. So there are agents which are now being deployed which will capture your mentions across various social media handles, whether it is LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, so on and so forth. They will capture your PR mentions which are there. They will then create a integrate into your CRM dashboard where you will analyze like what are the heat map in terms of what the people are saying, and then you will they will also suggest you to take the proactive measures, maybe defining uh, change in tone, change in content, either on social or how you want to engage with the press or publishing houses, so on and so forth. So, role of technology has become critical across all the three players. So is the case with growth. Now we have typically for an organization, growth is both the inbound as well as outbound. Now, inbound still we have some role of even in inbound, there is SEO and SEM. Again, there are agents which are coming in terms of optimization of keywords, how you are thinking about that, and automatically optimizing your web pages as such. Obviously, with your checks and balances which are there. Even for the outbound, there are agents which the people are developing, which gets integrated into like databases like Zoom Info, where they will fetch the information, they will fetch the profile of the people you are trying to target. They will segment it, put it into your CRM, and then the mailing will happen, and the mails will get automatically analyzed. So fundamentally, technology is now becoming more and more enabler. Obviously, with intelligent intervention, you cannot let everything happen through the technology, but uh, across each of the pillar of brand share, market share, wallet share, technology is the key enabler, and which will make that difference. Thank you.
Thanks. So, yes, obviously, technology will remain a key enabler, and those intelligent interventions that you talk about that remain important. Two important things you mentioned when you talked about agentic AI, that ultimately brand measure and brand visibility, those remain critical. So, the traditional way, where what I would like to understand from you is the way marketing campaigns earlier used to be segmented as ATL, BTL, those sort of campaigns. So are those dynamics also changing with technology as a key enabler, or fundamentally they remain the same?
So it depends on the type of customer personas which you are targeting. There will be ATL activities, there will be BTL activities, and then hence the measurement will be there. The fundamental of the media houses remains the same. The fundamental of social media angles, fundamental of organic search remains the same. But how you are accessing the data, how you are experimenting with a quick experiment, quick failure, and quick rechange in the direction is what is changing. So both from a ATL as well as the BTL perspective. For the BTL, it is for a, especially for a B2B marketer like me, where we have very focused customer target segments, how we are approaching them, how we are measuring their results. We have a very sophisticated tools in the sense of how we are capturing that entire information. For a BTL, it's like, for a ATL, it is still very I would say to a limited extent, which we can measure, right? You cannot say like how much a billboard is impacting the brand share or brand voice in overall scheme of things. But still, there are tools which can give a little bit understanding of the uplift of the sentiments among the audience. So yeah, that's where we are.
Thanks, thanks. Next, I'll come to Kaveri. Earlier point you mentioned about the shift more from a brand to the bigger story, and what Apurva also mentioned about the importance of persona coming in, and we know hyper personalization in marketing is now becoming more important. So, what I would like to understand is when you are talking about the change in the overall story, where does hyper personalization comes in, or in a B2B scenario, are we overemphasizing the role of hyper personalization? Perhaps in a B2C scenario, that's more applicable. What do you feel? What's your opinion on this?
So essentially, I think it's expected, right? Hyper personalization is something that we are beginning to expect from any marketer. If I have to just take a step back, I mean, you mentioned both B2B and B2C. So in our line of business, a client is a B2B client, and then a candidate for us is a B2C. So essentially, I think the intervention, the technology intervention, GenAI, hyper automation that you mentioned. Another interesting point I want to, you brought in an old concept of the ATL, BTL that most of us have, at least I'm sure we started a career with. Now, what we do is something called a TTL, which is through the line, right? So there is blurring, there's convergence of the ATL and BTL, and that's how even hyper personalization works, right? So what we're trying to do now is using technology intervention, using GenAI, hyper automation, to basically explore how we can get AI implementation not just across our own, but also into the client and the job seekers' core workflows. So everything is hyper targeted, right? Whether it's content, where we're using deep learning models to create new and novel output, text, image, video, hyper personalized, whether it's contextualized decision making, how do we influence and how do we interact with each TG? How do we, do hyper personalized communication and interventions with our stakeholders? The ROAS that Pallavi mentioned, right? How do we ensure that our ads, the paid media is hyper targeted? I think the bottom line is it has substantially improved our marketing outcomes across multiple domains, and hyper personalization is here to stay.
Thanks. Thanks. That's very comprehensive. We'll maybe touch upon this in a later round after this. Pallavi, I'll come to you next. Again, two very important points that you mentioned earlier. I'd like to maybe discuss in more details about that. One is the importance of data, that is, and the insights through different kind of analytics that you apply on the data, and the predictive insights, which is critical. And I will connect that in with you earlier mentioned that marketing is increasingly looked after by most organizations as a profit center. So doing more accurate predictive insights, and which helps organization turn into profit centers. How would you describe this whole journey, and what's it like going ahead?
Right. So, thanks for this question, Rajneesh. I think we spoke about Apurva and Kaveri both spoke about the entire through the line kind of intervention. I would call it a unified customer experience, where right from the fact that when I don't have the visibility of who my customer is, to actually having an opt-in from the customer, where I clearly know what's the way to reach him, what's his mobile number, what's his email ID, through the entire thing, through the customer actually becoming, sort of through the lead becoming a customer as such, and later on as well in the after sales part of it. So that full journey has to become a lot more data driven, and that's what is becoming these days. It's a lot more number driven. We are able to get visibility of how the customer is behaving, what kind of a disposition the customer has towards your brand and versus other brands. Sentimental analytics in terms of being able to understand what would he choose if he was given a choice. So with now data driven kind of a predictive analytics, what I was talking about, there are lots of tools which are available to us where we are able to not just understand all this from the data which we're getting from, like, the regular Facebooks of the world and the social medias of the world, but also be able to do some predictive, sort of behavior, sentimental kind of analytics as well, and actually throw in some light in terms of how do we expect a customer to behave going forward. Now, the story becomes all the more interesting when you're actually looking at the selling and the after sales part of things, because when you're looking at the sales part per se, and that's where I spoke about it moving from ROAS to more value based selling, and therefore translating into a lot more profitability kind of matrices. That is again a very, very interesting marketing intervention which has come through with the help of AI tools, where we are actually able to translate how much of increment were you able to charge because of the brand perception that you were able to create, and how has that impacted your PNL. So again, there are tools which are available in the market, which we can leverage and really be able to translate that into more meaningful sales, value based selling, and being able to benefit both the brand and the customer as such through the journey.
Great. The value-based selling and the after-sales part, I'll come later. But before that, I just want to ask one point where you mentioned about the sentimental analytics that is being done. My question is, increasingly, while competition was always there, but now increasingly what is happening, there are more competitors working for the same pie. So in that sense, the magnitude of competition has increased. So keeping that in mind, and we know one of the challenges in increasing AI adoption, the reasons of biases and those things that are coming up. So keeping that in mind, in when you are talking sentimental analytics, and there are mm, multiple number of competitors, and I'm sure everyone will be applying the similar tools. It's not that. So as a marketeer, what are your parameters where you uniquely differentiate yourself in that scenario?
So again, I think it starts from the understanding of who your customer is, right? And what kind of a customer segment persona that you're addressing. Now, one of the things that has worked for us is actually getting very hyper personalized to the extent of creating vernacular campaigns, and that really clicks very well with our audience, because the moment you speak Tamil, and then if your AI model is able to capture the cultural nuances and really articulate in that specific way, which I don't think a lot of AI models have yet cracked, but they haven't cracked the code yet on that. But the moment you're able to get to that level of hyper personalization, where you're able to capture cultural nuances in the vernacular languages which addresses the customer type, that's where you've actually had a great breakthrough with your customers. So those are things that which I am personally working on, to be able to really get as local as possible and as meaningful to a customer as possible in the language that he or she understands.
That's really interesting, and particularly in a very heterogeneous market like India, where so much diversity is there, that might be a critical. Reaching out in a vernacular through vernacular languages might be critical for the target group. Okay, Abhishek, can you hear?
Yeah, this is okay now. There was some sound
Okay,
loss
okay.
possible. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so what I would like to ask again, with relation to what you said earlier, the techno marketing. So I'd like to twist it around a little bit. So, one, as a marketeer, what are the new skill sets that one you would advise for a person who is coming into marketing domain? That is one, that is more basic, but more importantly, as even for a seasoned marketeer, what sort of cross-functional skills, you can call it cross-skilling or upskilling, whatever, you feel are imperative now, and how can marketeers go ahead on that?
So, see, the fundamental remains the same. There has to be a human touch in whatever we are doing as marketeers. Uh, but there are different various technologies, programming languages, programming skills, which are there that need to be incorporated. Python is one very popular language. Uh, Maybe Apur, who has a strong technical background, also can also throw light on it. But there is something which is programming, which is very very important, and you need to understand data and customization from that perspective as to how well uh, programming can be incorporated. A lot of people that we hire these days, and I was talking about techno marketeers. A lot of people that we hire these days, they are masters in a marketing program or MBA in a marketing program, but they do have skills of uh, analyzing large levels of data on their own, because ultimately they are the ones who are going to present it to the customer, especially in a B2C model. A very interesting case is a journey in the jewelry space. There's a company called Carrot Lane. So how they have kind of personalized. So we were talking to this customer, and what we realized that they are hiring people internally, as well as through consultants, through partners, with all levels of skills, all levels of technical expertise. So knowing about LLM, while I'm not a techno champion, but knowing about LLMs, languages like Python, that would be very, very helpful. But even at an academic level, in business programs where there is focus on marketing, and you guys can correct me, if there is a fundamental shift or fundamental integration and of technology as a point of view, some basic tools, some basic training is provided on that, because there is so much amount of data these days that, while again I repeat that the fundamentals of marketing remains the same, you have to be very personal, and that is where actually technology and AI, especially Gen AI, is enabling that personalization. It is making it much more efficient, much more effective. And I think somebody mentioned about hyper, though, use the term hyper. So it's actually becoming hyper marketing, wherein everything is so much customized that technology has a very critical role to play. I'm not sure if that answers your question.
No, thanks. It's more or less in terms of some of the cross-skilling. Before I go to the next round, I'd just like to ask Mohantish, from a technology media perspective, how have things changed? If you can mention it briefly.
So I think from a technology perspective, right, we as technology media houses, I think the campaigns have become that much more ROI focused. Some of the experiences, I think we have been able to create a lot of new things using technology. It has greatly enhanced customer experience, both from a marketer's standpoint and the end customer who is part of any program. I think it has really worked in creating a narrative and also big time in customer experience.
Thanks. Apurv, coming back to you again, since you had initially touched upon some of the fundamental points, another fundamental point, whatever these techniques, technologies, the tools that are being used, all of them comes at a cost. It's not so one. So there is a cost overhead to the organization. Whatever the marketing advancement or whatever we say, there is a cost involved. So those overheads, those cost overheads, how do an organization looking at, and it has to be to some extent passed on to the end customer. So how are organizations looking at that? That is one point. And the second is another fundamental question. There has been always that debate between the relationship between marketing and sales. So, in light of the current this hyper personalization and more data driven insights coming in, uh, how has the relation between sales and marketing changed? Not just sales, even with the other LBU heads, the other LBUs, how have those relations changed?
Perfect. I think you have touched very core fundamental things, and I would love to answer that. But before that, your first question is in terms of overhead costs and how does that get absorbed, and how does the marketing organization take it, and how it is then passed on to the customers. And then you talked about marketing and sales alignment. So I would first try to answer your first question and also relate to the points which you asked. Pallavi, in terms of how the marketing has now become a revenue center rather than a cost center, and that's is basically the same thing which you are asking, that how this overhead cost gets absorbed. So, like all of us know, right? For let's say in AWS, if I'm spending a single dollar per se, then I am expected to generate 30x of the pipeline. I am talking about the top end of the funnel. It can go up to 100x as such, and we have achieved 100x also. A dollar invested is giving you $100. Does that mean that the marketing ROI is $100? Like, then marketing is the revenue center. You don't need a sales to go ahead and sales, because marketing, because the challenge is that $100 tofu will not become $100 BOFU, which is like bottom end of the funnel. Typically, we will have 30 to 50% conversion rate and so on and so forth. So that's where the entire crux of the thing is, right? Irrespective of whichever tools which you deploy, irrespective of whatever things, processes, CRMs, marketing automation tools you follow, you first of all have to ensure that your $1 is reaching up to the level of $100 of top end of the funnel, and that top end of the funnel is getting like at least 30%, if not 50%, to a bottom end of the funnel, which is giving the real sense. And that's where, like, if you are able to achieve this core essence, right, core objective, so you invest in like so many agentic AI solutions, you invest in market intelligence tools which are like coming at a bomb as such. Think about like Zoom Info, 30,000 USD per license. It will cost you minimum. If you go to Canva, it is like $300 enterprise per user plan. So all this thing can get baked into that if you are able to achieve and bring all together all those tools in one single place. And that brings to the second important point which you asked Abhishek, and Abhishek was asking in terms of what I can bring. I want to bring this to the forum and to this panel as such. The most important coding language as of now in the agentic AI world is English. You don't need a Python, you don't need Java, you don't need C. And I have a proof points, right? Uh, the most important tool which is like, or the most important phenomena which is now transforming in this agentic AI world is called vibe coding. Vibe coding is like, there are companies like Cursor, so on and so forth. They have come, you would have, like, as a marketer, all of would have heard about Lovable, website website creator through the vibe coding, you simply have to know, right, which prompt you have to write and what is the end output which you need to generate, and then you can play with that. I was just hearing one of the podcasts where there's a company called Emergent. It is like achieved $10 million in 2 months, and it's an Indian company only through this vibe coding phenomena. So fundamentally, the things are changing, but the core remains the same. And coming to the point, like Abhishek was highlighting, which tools to learn, what things to learn. I would again go back to the basics is you need to have a learning attitude. Leave aside the tools, leave aside everything. Because fundamentally, like 2 months back, this emergent company was not even existing. Now they are challenging the status quo of lovable or so on and so forth. 6 months back, the Cursor as a company was not existing. And within, or maybe it's 8 months back, it was not existing. And now it has created this phenomena which, like, all the big giants are following in terms of launching the products, so on and so forth. So fundamentally, you need to have that learning attitude in place, and that's where this entire thing will come together. Like every, so you need to be a consistent learner all the in your entire lifetime. Like if you talk about me, at this like I have done all the certification, right, whether it is Azure, GCP, or even my company AWS, to just to understand, like I'm certified AI practitioner, just to understand like what's the fundamental which is going on, and hence then you will be able to better appreciate the nuances of the product. Now coming back, so that's like one dimension, like which addresses your overhead cost and marketing as a revenue center and so on and so forth. Now coming to another fundamental aspect of sales and marketing relationship, which I believe is hypercritical, irrespective of what best you do, how much top end of the funnel you generate, unless you have that good connect, good relationship with the sales, it is first of all it will not get entered into the sales. So leave aside the qualification piece, that how it is moving to SQL, how it is moving to tech well stage or business well stage. People, like I was just interacting with one of the company, they are willing to pay a humongous amount just to ensure that we are able to address this simple dimension of how the people are interacting with the CRM. Like you have best of the world, but the people culture is not there. So possibly what I've done is like, I keep on sharing internally in my organization. I'd like to make people visualize what the sales and marketing relationship is. I have created a model called hummingbird model. It's nothing like it's a jargon which is there, but it creates that vibe in the salespeople. So fundamentally, when you think about a hummingbird, it's very tiny, little cute bird with beautiful feathers and going to one flower to another flower, sucking nectars, right? But what we didn't realize is it's one of the most powerful bird, much powerful than eagle or a vulture, which is like huge wings, because it's the only bird which can fly at a static position. It can fly backwards. It can go to each of the flowers to suck the nectar, and that's what giving that agility as such. What I've told, like say, like I keep on emphasizing in my all every weekly online call or monthly online call, that sales and marketing are two wings of this hummingbird, and what we are bringing together is the bird, the agility of the bird, ensuring that the bird becomes so powerful that it's going to the all the like top strategic account, ABM account, which we did, and then then get the nectar from there and thrive. So fundamentally, this hummingbird model where sales and marketing relationship comes together, irrespective of all this technology, is the key. And so is the case with marketing. ROI focus is what is the key. So yeah.
Great, thanks. You have given the headline for this discussion, the hummingbird model that connects sales and marketing. Great. Kaveri, I'll come to you. Again, a point on storytelling has been fundamental for brand building, building authentic brands for years and ages. But again, in today's scenario, how has the, if I may say, the contours where this storytelling is being done, how has that changed?
Yeah. So I think storytelling is the game changer, right? I mean, I think great brands today have completely understood that it's no more about transactions, but the emotional resonance. So they, big brands, great brands compete on meaning and purpose, not just products. And I think storytelling builds that emotional connection that drives loyalty and trust. It transforms customer relationships from transactional to enduring. So there is no discounting, the power of storytelling. The other one is basically you use it as a strategic asset. It's no longer about just marketing, it shapes perception. So we talked about hyper personalization, right? How do you create that shape that perception across customers, investors, employees, and society on a whole? Because purpose driven brands don't just concentrate on their products or their service, but on the entire implication on the society as a whole. So brands must definitely ensure that their narratives align with corporate purpose and long term. That's the authenticity part of it. So there is the storytelling as an asset, there is storytelling for purpose, and there is the authenticity part of it. I think using technology and authenticity at scale, I think AI and digital platforms actually give you that unprecedented reach to be able to communicate from a brand perspective. But the trade-off is also oftentimes it exposes the gaps in authenticity, right? So I think it's an extremely powerful tool.
Thanks. Understood it. The importance of storytelling remains, only maybe the way it is being done is changing. Okay. Pallavi, next coming to you, again, the importance of data-driven insights we have heard, and we have mentioned about the customer experience or the customer satisfaction, which is involves more the after sales part. Uh, and increasingly organizations are adopting, deploying various tools to measure that customer satisfaction quotient. Where does marketing connect with this increasing focus on ensuring customer satisfaction? What's the role of marketing, and where do the two connect here?
Right. No, the great question, Rajneesh. Actually, the work of a marketer doesn't stop the moment he's become a customer. He or she has become a customer. The journey has just begun. Also, from the standpoint of a typical brand, if you look at manufacturing or a brand which is very highly dependent on after sales. In our case, for example, the profitability is 3x of after sales versus of the prime sales itself. So when you look at an after sales, therefore it becomes very, very important for us to maintain that customer stickiness and have that engagement throughout the journey once he has purchased as well. And therefore what we do is we invest a lot in sort of making sure that we are connected, we are engaged with the customer in every step of the journey. There is constant interaction which goes on with the customer. They're informed about what kind of offers that we have, what is the kind of sort of promotions which are going on, etc., etc. Not just that, we also use a lot of AI tools to be able to again personalize, because in the case of our customers, again, personalization, vernacular, outreach, all of that is very, very important. And to be able to do a kind of an emotional and sentimental analysis while they are approaching as well. When is the time to do an upskill? Again, from a marketer standpoint, it's also the phase in the customer's life where we also look for moments where he's ready for an upskill, or sorry, upsell, or a cross sell kind of opportunity that we have. So we constantly keep connect with the customer. The engagement has to be constantly up there. We have a metric called as a monthly active user, where we actually look at how many customers are engaged with us on a month level. And again, we use this as an opportunity to keep making sure, sort of to identify opportunities of selling more, selling, sort of sharing, increasing the share of wallet with the customer as such. So from our standpoint, especially because the revenue really matters a lot in the after sales part of the journey, we really watch that very, very closely, and there's a lot of marketing intervention which goes on a daily basis.
Thank you. Thank you. So that after sales part is becoming even more critical. And on that light, I'll come to you, Abhishek. Obviously, you represent an auditing and consulting firm, but not just your organization, but overall. when Pallavi talks about the after sales and the importance of customer satisfaction. I would like to a connected area. I would like to understand today's marketeers. How do you balance between? My basic question is, how do you balance between your greenfield and brownfield deals? More in terms of brownfield will mean that you have to do more cross-selling and upselling to your existing customers. Vis-a-vis acquisition of new customers, how is the sort of a balance being maintained and is there a formula that organizations can work on? Abhishek.
Yeah. So as I would say, first of all, there is no secret sauce for this, you know, and marketing fundamentally remains to be, very much culture and customer driven. Uh, in terms of the journey of the customer, be it greenfield or brownfield, it's very important to understand, where your company's journey is, whether the company is in the growth stage, what is the, state of the product, whether it's a new product, whether it's a matured product, whether it's an end of life product. So, it would vary depending on the life cycle of the product as well as life cycle of the customer. And I strongly agree with Pallavi on one point, that once you have a customer on board, that is where the marketer's real journey begins. That is where, and whether it's a greenfield project or a brownfield project, in both the cases, the uh, customer retention, the customer turnaround, repeat rate of the customer, this becomes very, very important. And fundamentally, while marketing is at the core of everything, marketing and sales, but I also believe, and from what I have learned from various startups, I've worked with a couple of startups, you know, the quality of the product speaks, you know, in any state of the journey, uh, any kind of model you build, any kind of business you build, to build a successful business, the fundamental thing is that the product has to be, right up there. Whether it's a B2B, it's a space tech company where I worked, the quality of product matters a lot, and that speaks for itself. So while marketing is a very important enabler, sales is a very important enabler, technology is a very important enabler, and we also spoke about continuous learning, which is very, very important. But ultimately, how you build your product, how well you kind of learn from your competitors in terms of how the product should be placed, how the product should be positioned, features of the product, gaps of the product, that fundamentally, is one of the key areas to a company's success, and to success of all the functions.
Thanks. Thanks. Okay, so we have almost come towards the end. So I'll just run one round with all the panelists and very briefly, all the things that we discussed. My question is again, from a marketing perspective, we talk about quarters. So if we look at the next 6, 7 quarters, from a marketing standpoint, what's the one or two most important things, the key focus areas for you? I'll start with you, Apoorv.
Uh, See, it's always evolving situations which are coming up in terms of what remains and what is the organization focus will be. But like what Pallavi and what Abhishek has highlighted, it remains always there that 80% of all the organization revenue will be coming from 20% of the existing customers. So that remains there. And this is also one more factor, like all the marketers keep on focusing on that green field or versus the brown field mirage. But the fundamental thing is like only the people who buy from you, 84%, or like there was a stat which I read in some research, 84% of the customers have already experienced your product, did the research out there, and then coming to you. And out of that, only 80% have already like either did a pilot testing or tested your product or maybe having some user interface as such. So fundamentally, that is the focus, that will remain the focus, and that will be there. Second important thing is you asked Kaveri about this storytelling thing, why it is important. And That will be the second focus which I am always have, because as an engineer you always go to the fundamental. Like as a marketer, we think about like she was highlighting the product propositions and things, right? But when the customers buy, right? So think about this. There are two parts of the brain. Like most of the marketers target like or think about right brain marketer is logical reasoning, data, stats, which are coming into the picture, which is prefrontal cortex, right? Which is the front end of your brain. But research, not my research, it's Harvard research, MIT research, have proved again and again. It is not the prefrontal cortex which is taking that decision when the customer is buying a product or services or thing. It's the amygdala, which is like the inside part of the brain, which is more sensitive towards emotions, which is like like Kaveri was highlighting in terms of more like what does that brand stand for? How does that brand is like when you think about different brands, like you have a specific perception about Tata or versus Reliance. So it is about that brand recall or brand storytelling is what your will influence your amygdala and will make you take that decision. So this will be the focus. The fundamentals remain the same. That's where we are. Thank you.
Okay, so the importance of the emotional quotient part along with the intelligent quotient part, great. Kaveri, what according to you will be the key focus areas for the next few quarters?
So for us, interestingly, you mentioned, what a fragmented and a marketplace India is. So it's the same for us, right? So I think one key portion would be the brand marketing part, where you stand out, as particularly in our industry, we stand out as a specialized talent partner. So we would want to build on that. The second is, of course, you also mentioned the investment, the marketing investment. So it basically comes down to three core things, right? The ROI through revenue growth, improved efficiency and personalization. In our case, also very deeper and more actionable insights. And of course, the bottom line is to just ensure that you have, with all this technology intervention, how do you improve marketing outcomes across multiple domains, the integrated marketing approach. So these three would be our focus areas.
Thanks. Pallavi?
Yeah, so very good insights by all the panelists. I think for me, the key takeaway, of course, we've discussed all the aspects of AI coming in and how marketing is going to evolve with the adoption of AI. Not just in the entire customer journey, but also in terms of the way we are looking at data, we are analyzing data, we are doing decision making and all of that. So obviously, that's going to be the next 6 months. There's going to be rapid adoption of AI, and it's really going to be a part of every single aspect of the marketing journey, the customer journey, as we would call it. Having said that, I think wearing a marketer's hat, I think one of the key things that I would also sort of do myself and also urge the other marketers to be conscious of is to have an ethical adoption of AI and have the governance set in place so that at least there is obviously there's I mean AI also is like the adoption is so fast, there is so much of errors which are happening, there's so much of misinterpretation of AI which is happening, and the adoption is also not very human centric per se. But I think that is something which I would also watch out for, that keep the data privacy part in mind, sort of work with the AI models where you're actually mitigating the other aspects of, hallucination, host of other things which we deal with. And again, keep it a lot more humane. Marketing, sort of is all about connecting to people in terms of, human to human touch. That is the core and essence of marketing as such. So that should not go away from marketers. And that should, again, while we adopt AI in such a fast pace, that's something which I would be conscious of.
Okay, so basically, you are looking at more refinements in the AI adoption that will happen. Abhishek.
Yeah. So first is data-driven personalization. You know, that is going to be very very important because customers love to be pampered, and they don't want to waste. If they don't like something, they don't spend too much time. So personalization, understanding the customer well, and this can only happen when data is well used, because there is so much amount of data that having the right programming or right algorithms in place. I'm just maybe talking 10,000 feet. It's very very important. Second, what Pallavi mentioned, risk and compliance, because AI as a technology, it can be misused, and the second thing, it can be used with poor effect, poor implementation. And I would, from a marketing lens, I would want to focus on poor implementation, because that is where it can be a disaster. It in terms of how what your outcomes are, what your results are, whether it's the customer onboarding or the customer support, customer service. Things can really go wrong. So these are the two areas where I would focus on, both from a technology perspective.
Thanks. So the data-driven personalization is very critical. Mohantesh, what exact changes you expect?
See, I've heard all the panelists. I think some of the things that really stand out. How can we do a better storytelling, right? Now, irrespective of what technology we use, whether we use AI, a lot of insights. I think that's going to be there for next couple of quarters. And from our perspective, since we do a lot of B2B programs, I think the things that stand out are how can we bring in more insights for marketers like these to have better connect with the target audience, and how we can build better engagement platforms. I think that's going to be the key, whether it is pre-sales, post-sales. uh, that's going to be really important if we can create a complete journey right from storytelling to onboarding and then creating a engagement platform. I think that to me are some of the key elements.
Thanks. Thanks to all the panelists. So, what we will do is this entire discussion has been recorded also. So, after editing, we will share the video with all the panelists. Plus, we will create a text report also, and that also we will share with all the panelists. And this will be highlighted on our social media platforms also via LinkedIn, so that it reaches out to a wider audience. It's great, all the panelists, for your insights. Really interesting information, and we soon hope to catch you on another similar platform. Thanks a lot, and have a
Thank you,
good day.
everybody.
Thank you, Rajneesh. Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks.